someone should have, perhaps pulled back the curtains and had a look at the pouring rain. There was probably a fierce debate over whether or not an umbrella would make the Prime Minister look privileged.
Rishi Sunak has 43 days to turn around Labour's poll lead. YouGov puts it at 25% in a poll for The Times this morning. When combining lots of recent surveys, The Times election poll tracker has a 21% lead. But you get the general gist. So what can the Prime Minister do to turn that lead around, and what does Labour do to protect it? We're going to speak to a couple of political strategists. We'll start with Andy Coulson, a former Downing Street Director of Communications under David Cameron. Good morning to you, Andy.
Good morning.
If you had still been in Downing Street, first of all, I have to ask you, what would you have done differently yesterday?
I would not have gone out in the rain. Number one, it did speak to an interesting point about sort of political campaigning. Is that too often you can find yourself trapped in the thing that you think you have to do, and he didn't have to make that announcement outside Downing Street. Someone should have perhaps pulled back the curtains and had a look at the pouring rain. There was probably a fierce debate over whether or not an umbrella would make the Prime Minister look privileged. The truth is that for the Conservatives, it is I think goes to a wider point. For the Conservatives to stand any chance in this election, they have got to think differently, and they have got to approach this campaign, I think, differently. And if they just try and play to the rules of the past, I know you're having a debate on the show about what the Tory slogan should be. Well, I would seriously ponder that. I mean, it's either please, by the way, or if you want to do one word, or it's, I think, more sensibly, vote Conservative. I think to go and play that game of let's all try and find a clever slogan. I think those days are gone. I think the public are onto it, have been onto it for quite some time. Labour's slogan was always going to be changed. And by the way, the copyright to that one is, I think does not belong to the Labour Party or any party, frankly. I would be looking for ways to try and do things differently, because I think although we were all terribly excited yesterday, about the prospect of this announcement, the truth is, for the vast majority of people in this country, it was just another turn of a rather depressing Westminster wheel. I don't think there is excitement about this election, and therein lies the problem, and therein potentially lies an opportunity.
Yeah. So you say that they have to do things differently. Is Rishi Sunak and also, Keir Starmer to a degree as well, are either of them able to actually do things differently? Keir Starmer doesn't maybe have to do things as differently as Rishi Sunak does, if you look at the polls. But he seems to kind of have one setting, it's like, this is how it's done, so let's do it this way. When what you seem to be saying is actually they need to really change it up.
I do, because I think.
But how confident are you that someone can persuade him to actually be less conservative with a small c when it comes to the election campaign?
Who that person is going to be, I simply don't know. But what I know for sure is that any campaign team needs someone in the room who is going to say, well, hang on a second, why have we thought about this? It's that kind of thinking that can make a difference. And I think it is actually, never mind whether or not it is the right thing to do. I think it's the only thing they can do in this election. On the other side as well, by the way, I don't. Although the polling industry, I think, will have to fold its cards forever if they've got this one wrong. I do think that the British public, do not like the idea of being taken for granted. That was something that Rishi Sunak said yesterday that I think is a good message, because I think it's true. And I think that if you want to be Prime Minister of this country, you've got to show people who you are. And Sir Keir Starmer hasn't done that yet. His strategy is turn up and don't mess up. And that might well get him over the line into Downing Street. But I don't think it will get him over the line with a majority that will then allow him to do the things that he said he wants to do in terms of delivering change in the country. If he means that, which I'm sure he does, then he needs to get out and really show people that this is a job that he wants. And that can only be done, in my view, right now, by doing things differently.
Okay. So change, something different. Andy, thank you very much. That's Andy Coulson, former Downing Street Director of Communications under David Cameron.
Simon says, well, I'm excited about the election. I love them. 6 weeks of utter joy ahead. Says Simon, which is good for you. We kind of feel a bit like that, as well. I've always voted, says Chris, I've never missed a single general election or local election, even voted in the referendum for introducing proportional representation. Remember that. This time I don't want any of them, so it's time to spoil my paper. We really need a none of the above option. I'll have to make do with drawing something rude instead, says Chris. So there we go. Keep your thoughts coming in. How would you argue for the Tories if that was your job? Change is what the Labour are going for. We'll see what the Tories come up with.
Politics varies greatly in the nations of the United Kingdom. So how will this election play out in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland? We're going to go round the UK now. We're going to start with Lucy Dunn, a diary reporter at The Spectator, who writes about Scotland. Morning, Lucy.
Good morning.
Now, the election day has caused a bit of consternation. 4th of July means something very different to Scotland than it does to other parts of the UK, because school holidays will already have started.
Yeah, I mean, in Scotland, school holidays begin around about June, the last couple of weeks of June. And as a result of that, I think we'll have seen a number of families across Scotland that may have already booked holidays at this time. Often it's to beat the rush when English school holidays come into force as well. And so this is something that I think particularly the Scottish Conservatives will have to grapple with over the next couple of weeks when they're asked about it, because the Scottish Conservatives are, in many ways, the only group of Tories in the country that are actually on course to retain their seats and even gain some north of the border. So I think in that sense, quite confusing as to why, for Rishi Sunak's party in Scotland, why he's decided to go just now.
So are they a bit grumbly, the Scottish Conservatives?
I mean, this is the thing. So we've actually seen no one's really said anything on record out loud at this point in time. I think the feeling is amongst Conservatives, and actually this is across the country, there are a number of people that are just not particularly pleased about the short notice that they've had in some way to cancel holidays, cancel plans over the next couple of weeks that we thought last week they wouldn't have to do after Rishi Sunak said that summer holidays were safe.
Yes. Lucy, thank you for that. That's Lucy Dunn. Let's speak now to Ruth Mosalski, political editor of Wales Online. Morning, Ruth.
Morning.
What's been the reaction in Wales? We've had a lot of people getting in touch and saying, well, you know, if you want change, you just have to look at what Labour are doing in Wales. A lot of people grumbling about their record. What's been the reaction in Wales?
Yeah, I think the Conservatives will be thrilled that narrative has made it through to London. Rishi Sunak has done his absolute best in PMQs over the past year or so to bring up Wales, and especially the NHS record here in Wales. They'll be chuffed that line has got through. But I think the consensus here is pretty much similar to everywhere else. There's lots of Conservatives saying, why now? There's lots wondering what he knows that they don't know. And for Labour, they're thrilled. They've been ready for this campaign. It was amazing last night how many candidates, very polished and slick videos started circling saying, I'm your candidate for. They were ready for this. They're excited for this. They've just come off the back of a leadership election in Wales. You know, Vaughan Gething is 2 months in to his tenure. There is obviously a point there as well that this will obviously buy him a stay of execution with lots of questions about how he's getting on at the moment. So yeah, it's the same with same as the UK really. Lots of optimism for Labour and lots of what's going on from the Conservatives.
And you mentioned the NHS obviously is a huge issue. What are the other issues that voters in Wales are exercised by? Presumably they're just the same.
Yeah, pretty much. So in terms of devolved areas, education, health, they're both up there last week, council tax reform here was shoved, and the Conservatives are probably going to, use that as a battering ram. Other things that they're going to talk about, 20 miles an hour, the default speed limit here, the Conservatives are absolutely against. In fact, yesterday afternoon, when we were all busy trying to work out what was going on in the cabinet room, there was a debate here talking about the biggest Senate petition in history, which was nearly 500,000 people opposing it. So the Conservatives are going to go hard on that. Labour is taking away your civil liberties. Labour is damaging the economy. And by the way, look how bad the NHS is.
Right. Really interesting, Ruth. Thank you. It's Ruth Mosalski, political editor of Wales Online. Let's speak finally to Peter McVerry, station manager at U105 in Belfast. Morning, Peter.
Morning to you, Esme.
How's it gone down there?
Yeah, I think they were caught a little bit on the hop, like everyone else, given the indications that come, they didn't expect it to come yesterday. The issue for us here is the impact maybe that it's going to have on Stormont. We've just celebrated the 100 days plus, if celebrate is the right word. The issue has been that we've got on well between the DUP and Sinn Féin, the two biggest parties. We don't have the opportunity in Northern Ireland to vote for either the Tories or Labour. Sinn Féin and the DUP will be battling it out to be the largest party in Northern Ireland. So while they've been getting on in Stormont, they're now going to have to start attacking each other on the doorsteps and picking holes in each other's strategy and each other's message. And the other issue for us is the double jobbing that won't really be happening from any of the parties. They've all come out against it. So, for example, the health minister in Stormont, Robin Swan, Ulster Unionist, has already said the last few weeks that once the campaign starts, he'll step down temporarily as health minister. While he runs to be an MP, we're not sure whether the same thing will happen with the Alliance Party leader Naomi Long, who's currently Justice Minister, and who may well stand in the seat and challenge the DUP's interim leader, Gavin Robinson, in East Belfast. So a few issues there to be sorted in Northern Ireland as well.
Yes, very much so. Peter, thank you very much for that. It's Peter McVeary, Station Manager at U105 in Belfast. We'd love